welcome. Be in the garden, be in nature. Thank you to those of you who have subscribed to my channel. If you appreciate what it is that I show on my channel, then I'd be so grateful if you would be able to share it with some friends, others who would appreciate it. It's really about my journey in the garden. I trust that you are well. I certainly am. The purpose of today is really I've got to catch up with the garden. The garden is taking over quite rapidly, and I have so much I need to get done. The warm weather is very appreciated, don't get me wrong, I'm loving that, and it's really helping to boost the speed at which plants are coming out of hibernation and leaves are growing. So there's a lot that needs doing around the garden. It's one of those days where you feel as though you have 1,001 things to do. I still have to sow some seeds. I've done some, they're just germinating. I'm a little bit behind, I feel, but I guess that's just the way it is. You can get done what you can get done. I don't want anything I do in the garden to be, pressure related. It's just a place to be, to enjoy and relax, taking some great oxygen. All these trees around me give me free oxygen. So as per usual, I cannot sit here for long because I've got to take advantage of this time that I have to be in the garden. So come join me. Thanks so much so far. Stay tuned. This tree here is an apple step over. That's me over there. Hi, thanks for tuning in. It's short to the ground, so the trunk is only, let's see if I can fall over there, about 8 inches off the ground, and then it has these lateral branches from which the apples grow. The hedge that you saw me trimming in one of my previous programs is really growing quite rapidly already. So these are the new shoots growing off this hedge already. That's the Laurel. You saw me prune this back. The blossoms of the peach, this one here is a peach tree, are a little further on than the cherries, and the apples, as you can see, they're spent. So I'm really hoping to get some peaches this year. So the blossoms have come and gone, and hopefully the bees have been busy. And this here is a cherry tree. What a lovely visitor here. It's not a honeybee, but it's welcome all the same. And the blossoms of a cherry tree just here. Grateful to all these beneficial insects. This cherry tree on the opposite side of the garden is further along. You can see that the blossoms are spent, and hopefully pollination has taken place, and before long they will swell and we'll start seeing the fruits of my labour. More apple trees. I think the blossoms are just beautiful. They don't last too long, but they are beautiful, aren't they? I have a tree peony here. This one's a tree peony, and the flowers on this one last year were absolutely scrumptious. I have a regular peony, for want of a better word, and that's this one here. And at this time of year, you really see the strong foliage coming up. The bud itself is still only very small. Let's see if I can focus in on there. It's probably the size of a pea at the moment, a green pea, but that will grow and do really very well, hopefully this year. The peonies, they're such reliable flowers for anybody who's perhaps new to gardening. They need very little attention in my opinion, and they have the most magnificent blossoms and flowers later in the year. You'll have to ignore the chickens clucking away there in the background. And no, they're not mine. But here we've got Magnolia, and actually just a few weeks ago they were in full bloom. They don't last very long, but I did talk to you about how beautiful they are. But the good thing is, once that goes, I have this one here. I love this tree. Call it my avenue. That's just me being posh. I have a good row of these, and this tree here is a crabapple, and it's called Prairie Fire, and I love the blossoms here. They really just don't last long. Can you see the bees? They love, absolutely love. They love this. There are so many honeybees in here, and it's nice because the fruits itself of this are not spectacular, but I literally planted these trees just for these blossoms. There are bees everywhere, just beautiful against the blue sky. You see? Beautiful against that blue sky. Let's keep going. Yeah. And this tree up here, oh my goodness. Wow. That's where I get all my leaves from every year to mulch my banana tree. I'll be showing you how I do that later. The crabapple trees are a tree to consider because they probably reach a maximum height of about 20 feet, I'd say. So it's not too bad even for a small garden. The lavender hedge is coming back after its period of dormancy in the winter. The front row here are the lavender, and they're just coming back after a harsh prune. I really do prune them very hard back in the winter, around November time, the first week in November. I cut it back as far as possible, so long as I don't go into dead wood. But this is lovely because they're just starting to bounce back now after the winter. It's beautiful. You just see the new foliage coming through. It's beautiful green. So I've done a whole long row of those. Behind them, I've got the Euronymous, and that's a variegated one, the gold and the green leaves. It's lovely. They don't grow too fast, but it's just nice to give a contrast behind the lavender hedge. And then behind that I have the trees. That's a Carpinus betulus. I like this one because in the winter they hold on to their leaves. The leaves go crispy brown. But there's one just caught up in here somewhere. They're crispy brown, but they hang on to their leaves. And then in the spring, the new shoots push the old leaves off, and the wind as well. And then you have this beautiful new leaf coming through. It's lovely. I love the colour. It's like a lime green almost. So that's one of the hedges in the garden. And then my lawn, which, as I've said before, really, I don't really care much for lawns anymore. They're too time consuming in my opinion, but I appreciate it still. And then I just trimmed it with some pebbles. The Wisteria, I think, is doing really well so far. I think it really does appreciate a good cutting back in the winter. I cut them back or prune them back twice a year. Around, for me, I do it in the winter sometimes. Sometimes it's December time, or it could be January time. But there are recommendations on when you should. I find, for me, that if I prune it back hard, then I tend to get lots of flowers. I can just see the flowers are just beginning to form here. Yeah, and the smell on this is lovely. You know, if you've never smelt a wisteria before, I tell you, it's definitely something worth having in your garden. There we go, it's beautiful. Wisteria alba, these have got beautiful white flowers. It's lovely. And here, because I've pruned it back well and very hard, you can see the bud casings. There are a lot of people who say that when you plant a wisteria, it doesn't flower for about 7 years or so. I have not found that to be so. I have found every time I've planted wisteria for myself or for others that actually they do flower in the first year. So that's my experience. It's a Pyrocanthus here. It's a beautiful hedge, evergreen. However, it has the most lethal spikes on them. You see, the most lethal spikes, and so it really does need your attention when you're trimming this one back. It's the one that brings you have like orange berries or different colours. I think you can get yellow, orange, and red berries in the winter months. But I will be trimming this back at some point. The ladder is all set up already, getting ready to go. Hey, so I said I'm going to be cutting the Pyrocanthus hedge, and I plan to do that right here, right now. Safety first though, for this occasion, because of the sharpness of the thorns, I've got some very strong gloves. I wear these. This is a little bit longer and a lot tougher because the thorns on that Pyrocanthus are really quite lethal. So those are the gloves I'll be wearing. I'm actually going to be using a hedge trimmer. I've got a battery operated one. That's this one here. Okay, so I'll be using this today. Nice and easy to use. Pop the battery in. I hope it's been charged. I hope it's charged. That slots in and that's it. Ready to go. But I'll also be using goggles just for safety in case something splinters, so I'll be using those as well. How does that look? Safety first. Okay, so as you saw, I started trimming with the shorter hedge trimmer, but this hedge is way taller than I care for it to be at this point in time. So I'm just going to bought out the longer hedge trimmer now, and what I'm going to do with this one is just continue the top. The good thing about this one, I don't know if you can see actually there, I don't know if you can see, can you? It allows me to adjust the blade so that I can actually cut the hedge in different angles. That's a great thing about this one. I can adjust the angle on this blade. I can also extend the arm. So it just means that I can continue doing this particular job from the ground. Look at the thorns on this plant. They're really quite spiky, so perhaps not ideal for gardens with young children, but they do make a lovely hedge. They have berries in the winter months, and also they can be used as a deterrent in areas where you think your garden fence might be vulnerable. So, but they really do, I warn you now, they really do have very, very sharp spikes, so not ideal for all gardens. You can see them often in people's gardens, used strategically as a natural hedge to deter unwanted individuals. Very, very sharp. So now what's left is just to do the cleaning up, pick these all up, and of course I've got my very tough gloves on. And whilst I love composting, and I really do, you know that, these cuttings I don't put in my compost just because they're so sharp. So these ones I do put into the council bin for them to remove. Okay, so I have pruned back the Pyrocanthus, and now what I'm going to do is just tidy up the jasmine. I had no intention of doing that, so just to add to my 1,001 things, I had done number 1, the Pyracantha. I've discovered something else that needs doing, so I'll add it back on. There's still 1,001 things to do. It's my jasmine clotted cream. It has beautiful, beautiful flowers, so let me just help it be magnificent this summer by just pruning back some of the old twiggy branches. Okay, so remember with pruning, where possible, dead, damaged, disease. So I'm just taking away some of these dead things. And this particular shrub is beautiful, it really is, but it can get very carried away. It can take over the whole of this area if left unattended. So I'm just trying to control it slightly. Okay, so another job that needs doing is just to trim back the hedge that's behind me. I'm going to be using the long trimmers, so come join me. Being safe all the time, that's why I've got my goggles on. Be in the garden. I have been in the garden for many hours now, doing all kinds of things. I told you at the very start of this video that I had 1,001 things to do, and whilst I may have been exaggerating a little bit, I definitely have had a lot of things to do in the garden today, and I've been getting on with them diligently. So now I've trimmed back the hedge behind me, I've raked up, I'm just going to mow the lawn a little bit. You can hear, I think, other neighbours are doing exactly the same, so I do apologise for the background noise. There's some drilling and gardening and all sorts, but to be expected. It's nice, it's part of life, it's all good. The birds are out singing, the bees are out buzzing, the chickens are clucking nearby. I've really enjoyed being in the garden. As I always say, you know, if you can just get out and just connect with nature in one way or another, you'll definitely reap the benefits. The exercise I've done in the garden today has been just natural stuff, you know, pulling and pushing and cutting, all that kind of stuff. The weather has been great today, I can't complain. I don't know if you've had a chance to go outside, in the garden, on a balcony, in an allotment, in your local park. Out for a walk if you can. Lots of fresh oxygen nature's given me, so that's great. At this time of year, really, I'm just trying to catch up. There's so many things, it seems like, that need doing in the garden, but I'm not going to stress over anything. I had said that I was going to sow some seeds some weeks ago, and to be honest, I only just about got around to doing some of the seeds, and I still have many to do. But in fairness, the weather actually turned and became really quite chilly for the last 3 weeks or so, so perhaps it was a good thing that I didn't sow the seeds out. Otherwise they'd be, I don't know whether they would have, you know, germinated very well, and certainly for whatever reason maybe it's worked out well. So I'm just enjoying being out here. It's just splendid. Oh, I wanted to say something as well. I want to say thank you to those of you who have subscribed. I really do appreciate that. Perhaps you can give me the thumbs up. I know that's going to be helpful for me to grow my channel. It's also helpful to you if you click on the notification button so that you know when next I upload my video. I want to say thank you to those of you who have given me comments, and for those of you who have asked questions, I'll try to be honest and respond. Feel free, do some more. If you'd like some advice in gardening, feel free to ask. It's been a great day so far. Thanks for watching so far. Keep tuned.